Visual Studio includes the ability to create and view reports. You can design reports in Visual Studio using the Report Designer. The first thing you'll do is add data from the Data Sources window to the report. Then you can lay out the report, you can sort and group, you can add expressions to display calculated values, and then save the report. You can do this by hand, or you can use the Report Wizard. And finally, to display a report in a form, you'll use the Report Viewer control. So let's go create a simple report, one by hand and one using the Report Wizard. I have the Data Controls project open and I want to add reports to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a new item. And there are two choices for report, Report and Report Wizard. To create a report by hand, you'll choose Report. To create one using the Wizard, you can choose Report Wizard. Let's do one of each. So I'll select Report and I'll call this Report 1, and then I'll click Add. And that opens up the Report Designer. So let me get the Solution Explorer a little bit narrower so we can see what's going on. Okay, so now what I want to do is start laying out my report. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag a text box from the toolbox into the report. And I'm going to move that so it's in the upper left. There we go. And I'm going to set the value of this to customer list. Customer list. I should make this a little wider so we can see it. There we go. And then I want this to be a little bit bigger, so I can expand the font property, set the size to 14, and the weight to bold. And then make this wider so it all fits. So there's my title. The next thing I want is somewhere to display the data, so I'll drag a table from the toolbox into the report. And now what I want is to add data to this. So I can use the Data Sources window for that. And this report is going to show me customers, so I'll expand the customers table, and then I'll just drag columns from the customers table into the report. So the first thing I want to show is city, and I'll drag that into the detail row of the first column. Then I want company name. I'll put that in the second column. And then I want contact name. And I want a fourth column, but by default I only get 3 of them, so I'll add one. I can right-click the third column and insert a column to the right. Now I have 4 columns, and in that column I want the phone number. Then I'm going to select this header row by clicking the box to the left of that, and I'm going to set the font weight to bold. And I also want to underline this so I can select Format Font Underline. So I can do that either in the Property window or the Format menu. The next thing I want to do is some sorting and grouping. So I need to select the entire table. I can do that by clicking in this gray box to the upper left. And then in the Properties window, I'll select the Property Pages button, and that brings up the Table Properties dialog box. So I'll click the Sorting tab, and now I can sort this report. I can sort on more than one column. I just select them. So I'll select from the expression list city, and my direction can be ascending or descending. And then within city, I want to sort by company name. I also want to group this report by city, so I'll go to the Groups tab, and I'll add a new grouping. And because I want to group by city, I'll select that from the expressions drop-down list. Okay, when I click OK twice, now I have 5 rows in here. I have the title, I have the group header, I have the detail, I have the group footer, and the report footer. So what I want is for city to appear in the group header. All I need to do is highlight that and drag it and drop it. What I also want to do in the group header is display not only the city but the number of companies in that city. So I can modify this expression. And to do that, I can come down to the value property and choose expression from the drop-down list. This takes me into the expression builder. Notice that the report designer builds expressions using the VB language syntax. So you're going to have to learn just a tiny little bit of Visual Basic. In the expression box, I see constants, I see globals such as page number, report name. Here are all my fields I can select. I also have operators, arithmetic operators, and there are descriptions to the right and examples on how you use these. Comparison, concatenation, logical. So if you're not as familiar with the Visual Basic language, you can use the descriptions here to help you build expressions. And there are also common functions for date, time, aggregates, financial, etc. So what I want to do is add to this after the city. I'm going to add a left parenthesis, and then I'm going to add the count of the city field. So I'll go back to fields here and enter city so I don't have to type it. Close the parenthesis and then add the text customers and close the parenthesis. So this says, in this text box, show me the city, parentheses, the number of customers, and then parentheses. Okay, I'll click OK. And there's my expression. Now I want to resize these columns, so I'm going to click in the header of the first column and set its width property to 2. I want the second column to be a little bit wider because that's the company name, 2.5. The contact name should be 1.75. And the phone should be 1.5. And then the report itself is a little bit wide. I will have this be only 7.5 wide. Okay, we have a report. I'll save this. We can close it, then come into the Solution Explorer, and here's report1.rdlc. Now what I want to do is display this on a form. So I'm going to use the Report Viewer Try It Out form, which is an empty form. And I want to display the report on this form. So to do that, I'll come into the toolbox, and in the Reporting tab, I will add to the form a Microsoft Report Viewer control. When I do that, this pops up the Report Viewer Tasks pop-up menu. I can choose to dock the report in the form, and then I need to choose the report. Customer List 1 is the finished version of the report we're building now. Let's use Report 1, which is the one we just did. And notice when I do that, Visual Studio adds a data set, a binding source, and a table adapter because it's going to retrieve the customer information. And in addition, if I look in the code, in the load, we call the fill method of the customer's table adapter to bring down the customer's table and then refresh Report Viewer 1, which is the report viewer on the form. So now let's run this. And when we click Report Viewer Try It Out, here's the report. Customer list by city, showing me the number of customers in each city, company name, contact name, phone. I can scroll from page to page. I can refresh. I can print. I can select the print layout, the page setup. I can export this to Excel or PDF, and I can zoom in and out. Okay, let's close this. And now let's build a second report, only this time we'll use the report wizard. I'll right-click, I'll add a new item, and this time instead of choosing report, I'll choose report wizard. Click add, and now the report wizard comes up and it's going to walk me step by step through creating a report. So I'll click next. What's my data source? I want customers. If I needed to, I could add another data source, but I have the customers table here, so that'll work. I'll click next. The next page asks me, do I want a tabular or a matrix report? I'll select tabular. Then it wants me to design the table. What fields do I want in the page header, in each group, and in the details part of the report? So I want company name in the details, I want contact name, and I want phone. And I want city in the group. Okay, so I'll click next. Do I want my table layout to be stepped or blocked? I'll choose stepped. I can include subtotals, so I'll check that and I'll click next. Then I can choose one of the delightful built-in styles. How about ocean? Click next. And I can change the name here. I can review what I've done. I'll click finish. And here's my report. And then the only thing that I want to do here is change this from report to customer list. And I also want to, again, display the number of customers. So I'm going to modify this expression. Same way we did before. Count of city, and then plus customers. Okay, looks good. Click OK. And now I can change the width of the columns. I want the first column to be 2 wide, and the second column to be 2.5, third column to be 1.75, fourth column to be 1.5. Okay, save this. Close it, and now let's come back into the report viewer try it out form, and for this report viewer let's change the report from report 1 to report 2. And now let's go look in the code and see that Visual Studio understands that we're still calling from the customers table, so none of this code gets duplicated. That's good. So now let's run this. And when I click Report Viewer, try it out, here's my new form. So city, the number of customers, and company name, contact name, and phone. So what you've seen in this demo is 2 ways to create reports. You can do the report entirely by hand in the Report Designer, or you can use the Report Wizard to get a start and then modify the report as you see fit.